Hello and welcome back to Franchise Canada Chats. Gary Prenovo here. I'm president of FranNet of Southern Ontario and Eastern Canada, and also author of the book, The Unstoppable Franchisee. Today's guests for Franchise Canada Chats are Adam Janke and Christian Johannsen. Adam is the master franchisee of Foot Solutions, a foot care specialist franchise that designs custom orthotics and provides service addressing the foundation of customers' health. Christian Johannsen is a franchisee for Foot Solutions based in Vancouver. Adam, Christian, welcome to Franchise Canada Chats.
Thanks for having us, Gary.
It's our pleasure. Okay, so I understand for Adam, you've got a medical background as a podorthist. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that drew you to Foot Solutions, please?
Sure thing. When I did an undergraduate degree in kinesiology many moons ago, and as the story often goes when people ask me about becoming a podorthist, unlike almost all of my peers, the traditional paths, physiotherapy,
Mhm.
education, sure, maybe medical school, those sort of things, weren't really of interest to me. And I didn't know anything about being a podorthist or even what a podorthist was. But I stumbled into the field and realized right away that this was one, a very underserved aspect of the healthcare market within Canada, and two, a great way to become a business owner. And that was the only thing I really knew I wanted to do, was to become a business owner in the healthcare space. So I became a podorthist. I'm almost 20 years as a Canadian board certified podorthist. Shortly after finishing up university, I don't need to get into the details of what it takes, but it's effectively a postgraduate program. And moved west. I was living in Ontario at the time, moved to the Vancouver area, and shortly thereafter started my first business in this space, which was not a Foot Solutions. It was my own independent operation, and worked in that clinic, ran that clinic. We had a number of locations in the Vancouver area. Um, Ended up selling that. And in my search for the next opportunity, I came across Foot Solutions. And what really drew me to Foot Solutions was the the seriousness with which the brand takes service. That's number one in terms of service to the customer, the client, the patient, whatever, however we want to refer to them. But two, their emphasis on modernizing the field, the foot orthotics realm, if we want to call it that, which includes a lot of different types of clinicians, um, has areas where it's advancing, but has many areas where it has been slow to innovate and change and modernize. And Foot Solutions is clearly putting that at the forefront. And it was shortly after learning about the opportunity with Foot Solutions that I decided to get on board as the master franchisee for the Canadian market.
Okay, and when was that?
That was just almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
I've been a master franchisee a couple of times myself, so I know that journey. And interesting with Foot Solutions, I started FranNet in 2002, and a couple of my early transactions, my early placements were with Foot Solutions in Toronto. So I way back then I knew it and loved the category. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Foot Solutions and the franchise model, please, Adam?
Certainly. Well, I mean, to your point, Gary, the brand has been around for a very long time, 20 plus years, and has grown very successfully within the American market, the Canadian market, and globally, in fact. Now, roughly 4 years ago, a new ownership group came in and took over the global operation. And they have, as I already hinted at, taken, a really critical component of the healthcare system and designed a model that is very effective at delivering a high level of service, a an excellent selection or suite of products for people that are dealing with whether that be foot problems, knee problems, hip and back problems. There's a lot of issues in the body that stem from the feet. So the Foot Solutions brand has built this hybrid medical retail model where if you just need specialized footwear, maybe extra width, extra depth, certain types of features built into those footwear, Foot Solutions is the place for that. And then on top of that, we offer our more clinical or medical type services where we would assess for and design and produce custom orthotics to help people with biomechanical issues, so alignment issues, muscular issues, those sorts of things. It's a wonderful model. And I think one of the things that I'd really like to highlight is, nobody goes into franchising or any form of business to not have success, right? Nobody starts a business to not be profitable. And our model certainly allows for that, supports that. Of course, we wouldn't be doing this if it didn't. But it's really unique in that you're not just doing well as a business owner, you're actually serving your community. You're making a real difference in the world. You're keeping people on their feet. You're helping people stay active as they age or navigate injuries. Isn't just about age. Of course, that's going to be a huge part of our customer base, or people who are in that 55 plus age category that are just dealing with the realities of aging bodies. But whether you're in that camp or somebody that's dealing with just general injuries from activities or athletic pursuits, we can really, really help people. The people in our stores do an incredible job of getting people back on their feet and letting them live as healthy a life as they want to.
You mentioned the age bracket, and I fit in right there. And it's like I think I need to go into one of your centers because I've got a lower back on one side, and I think there's misalignment there. So we'll
Certainly.
talk about that offline. And it's interesting you mentioned what you just did about healthcare, like the wellness overall industry. And there's lots of people looking to get into that business in new ways, in different ways. It's one of our most popular categories for people exploring entrepreneurship. Why is now the right time to be thinking about foot care from the health perspective and from a business perspective? Can you go a little bit deeper into that, please?
Certainly. Well, I would maybe challenge the point a little bit, Gary, and say it's always the right time to be looking at the foot care market, whether that's now, 10 years from now, or 20 years ago. As I said about my story, my background, um, most of us really ignore our feet until there's a problem. You don't think about them, right? You put your shoes on, you go out and you do whatever it is that you're going to do, walk your dog, go to work. Doesn't really matter. But when the problems start, they can be very, very life altering. I mean, people can not be, they may not be able to work. They may not be able to maintain their activity levels, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the foot care realm is one, it's very fragmented. There's a lot of different clinicians that practice in this space of foot care. Two, it's an area that can have a massive, massive impact on a whole host of issues in the body, not just the feet. It can be the feet, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the back. So these are very common areas for people to be dealing with injuries, aches, pains, etc. But there's just not that many options for going to get the right kind of service that you need and the right type of assessment and analysis that you need to really get what a person needs to get back on track, to get back to work or activity levels. So, from the standpoint of thinking about the business opportunity within this space, there's a few stats I wanted to share. Year over year, foot care demand is increasing by 60%. It's a huge increase.
660?
60% is the
Wow.
year over year increase in foot care demand. Now that's a big basket of stuff. That doesn't mean it's all orthotics or footwear, but foot care as a whole has or poses a very, very significant opportunity for somebody that's looking to get into the health and wellness space. On a global basis, the compound annual growth rate is projected to be 8% between 2022 and 2032. So that's a very, very strong growth rate within this community. Now, the demographics that we all know in the health and wellness space apply here, right? People are aging, people are trying to live better, longer, and people are very active, and they want to stay that way. And they want to stave off, the various things that can slow them down. And we are really, really well positioned to help people with those issues that can come up there. The added really interesting part to our business is a large portion of the products we offer are reimbursed by extended medical. So unlike a nutrition concept, and I'm not saying those things aren't great. I mean, I'm a consumer of all those things, whether it's nutrition, whether it's some sort of a fitness concept, massage concepts, etc. Those are all great things. But a large portion of the products we offer are reimbursed by extended medical here in the Canadian market. So the economy can be up, the economy can be down, and we will often see very, very, very low a very low impact to some of the aspects of our business. You know, general retail, sure. If we're going through a tough period in the economy, everyone's going to feel it. But when it comes to the products that often do the most for our customers and clients, namely foot orthotics or things like knee braces, other forms of sports medicine braces, most of those are covered by extended medical. So you have this benefit of a person's going to come in, they're going to potentially get something like a custom orthotic, often prescribed by another medical professional. And, you know, those things aren't inexpensive. If anyone that's listening has ever gone to get custom orthotics, they'll know they can run hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But they get usually close to 80% of that back from their extended medical provider. So, you know, you think about things like dentistry, you know, there's that copay system. We have a very similar benefit within our business model as well. And then the added piece to that is we also complement that with retail, right? Footwear, you know, people often will say, you know, when is AI or Amazon going to kill the retail footwear market? And there's going to be elements of that for sure. But the clients we serve, the people that need an extra level of care and attention to detail to what it is that they need, that can't be solved by technology yet. So you still need the, you know, the eyes and the hands and the understanding and the knowledge and the experience of well-trained and knowledgeable staff to say, you know, this is the type of footwear we think you need to solve your foot pain, your ankle pain, your knee pain. So we have this very nice blend of, as I said already, that hybrid of retail and medical, where you can navigate all sorts of ups and downs in the economy, and you're insulated from a lot of the pressures that we're seeing impacting other businesses due to, you know, the move to online and e-commerce and those sorts of things.
I'm hearing a few things. One of my favorite subjects to talk about when people ask what's the hottest businesses out there. I first of all I say that's the wrong question, because what's hot is what's selling the most doesn't mean it's sustainable.
Right.
I like need-based businesses versus want-based businesses. There's very good want-based businesses, but when we're dealing with more turbulent and uncertain economic times, the more need-based it is, regardless of what the economy does, the demand is going to be there. That's just what you just described. So I love that category component and the fact that you are doing good by serving others. So there's a very interesting component. I'll come back with a couple of other questions. I'd love to hear, Christian, from a franchisee perspective. Let's get into a little bit from your perspective, please. What's your background experience and what drew you to getting a Foot Solutions franchise?
Great question, Gary. The thing is that we came in to the country as immigrants. So when we immigrated from Germany over 25 years ago now, we had to open a business. And when one of the opportunities with us, you know, importing products from Germany fell through, we're looking obviously at other opportunities to start a business. Because my dad's always been an entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur in that aspect of things, because you know, I always had that mindset behind me. But at the same time, you know, what we realized is that the Canadian market is very different than the German market in terms of how business runs and how business is created in the North American economy. And as a result, you know, we felt that, okay, if we look at franchising, which, you know, we hadn't explored in Germany before, you know, most of the companies in Germany are you know, self-employed entrepreneurs that, you know, own their own businesses, maybe scale them to a larger scale, but franchising, you know, hadn't been that popular over there at that time. Obviously, it's now exploded and it's become a global phenomenon. But you know, we felt that having the ability for us to, you know, basically access a, you know, franchise system that gave us that you know, needed information to start a business. You know, how do we create systems in the Canadian market that are going to allow us to succeed, and how do we create, you know, get a blueprint from a franchisor that's then able to, you know, obviously help us succeed, as opposed to us having to figure out all these, you know, little steps ourselves. Because I mean, we know for sure that, you know, based on, you know, statistics, that most businesses fail within the first year or two, right? And with franchising, I believe that you have a level up because of the fact that you have the ability to plug into a proven system that's already creating results for other businesses, and you have that network of entrepreneurs that you can access that allow you to participate in this you know, business model itself. So you don't have just yourself you have access to other franchisees, you have access to the franchisor to ask questions and learn from them.
Yeah, it's you're sharing some of the things that I share with when I do panels and other events about the benefits of franchising. It's a compressed learning curve because of all that foundational knowledge, as well as it's an accelerated growth once you hit that competency and proficiency at running your business. Now you can grow faster and different ways because there's more intellectual knowledge with all the franchisees in the system as well as the franchisor. So I can see why when you came to Canada, that accelerated time and de-risking it a lot, there's strong elements of that. And so when you look at you being a franchisee and you get into, it's obviously running the retail side of things and running that business, but I think a big part that people underestimate is the importance of community engagement. Tell us a little bit about how you get into the community and get people to be aware of your service.
There's a lot of ways for us to obviously get involved in the community. When we first started, we did a lot of events. We did medical outreach to medical practitioners in the area. Because of the field that we're in, there's other complementary professions that, can refer business to us. And if we have good relationships with them, that obviously drives business, because if they don't know about you, they're not going to send anybody to you, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to. I've also been heavily involved when I first started in the local chamber movement. I found myself being able to get on the board there and learning from, their business experiences and participating in the community that, was able to get out into the community and kind of create a little bit of a feel of us being, obviously a leader in our field, but also creating that engagement in general. We host a lot of events out of our store as well. I have certain networking groups that will come into our shop, where we create traffic that way, just to make sure that people are aware that we're in the area. We've also had access to business improvement associations in our area, which allows us to participate in their events. And I think if you help other people, they will in turn help you. And I feel that's really what's most important about that. The head office is helping us, significantly with digital marketing efforts. So for us to be able to, plug into Google AdWords or even Facebook marketing, we have a great team at the head offices that is now taking over this marketing aspect of it, which makes a huge difference, when you're thinking about it. Because if you're wearing so many hats of the entrepreneur, which is both, you basically having to deal with clients, working on the back end of the business, and then also focusing on marketing. The more things you have on your plate, the less you can focus on what's really important, and that's serving our client base, right? So that's why I feel, having access to all of that is phenomenal. And then a lot of networking we've done over the years as well, just, being able to attend local events, get to know other local entrepreneurs that we can work together with to create a customer base for ourselves, and then maybe even plug into their customer bases.
So it's awareness, and you're always looking at how do I grow that awareness, right? And for our listeners, from my perspective, as I'm helping people look at businesses, I emphasize the importance of community engagement. People often think about community as the geographic community around the center, the physical community that they're located in. That is one community. You just heard Christian say the business community, the BIA, and networking in his center. This is other businesses who serve the same customers, or getting into businesses to raise awareness with other owners that there might be some cross-pollination. Other communities you might want to think about is the faith community, the ethnic community, those different types of community. Each sub-community, ladies and gentlemen, is a mining area of opportunity. You might not go to all of them, but if you look at how do I engage, and the other thing that Christian said, and I think it's really important to pay attention to, is serve. He's on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. That's serving the community. It's not just showing up, it's serving as well. So how can you give back and get visible in the community that's there? So for either one of you, can you tell us a little bit, for a prospective franchisee, what would they, if they were looking at Foot Solutions, what's the model from a staffing, from an operation perspective? Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like, a day in the life of the franchisee?
Christian, why don't you tackle that? The day in the life part, I can handle the staffing part.
I mean, the day in the life of a franchisee is fairly simple. I mean, obviously we have set business hours. Most businesses are open 6 days a week. I made a choice several years ago that I'm only going to be open 5 days a week. So, I actually reduced my work day week to 5 days as opposed to 6 days, which a lot of the franchisees are open, which is one reason why Mondays, I'm available for this kind of stuff because of the fact that I use that as an opportunity for me to market, for me to get out to the community a little bit more, and obviously also for my own mental health, to be able to do things that I want to do and not have to worry about a staff member not showing up to work because of the fact that it's Monday, so I don't really feel like coming in. I'm going to have somebody else attend then having me attend to that particular event. But I mean, usually the way it goes is, we're 10 to 6, so it's a fairly, short day in that regard. And Saturdays we even 11 to 5. So, in that sense, you're working 38 hours a week. Yes, there's additional stuff to do because if you're busy with clients in the daytime, there's certain things that you have to catch up on after the fact to make sure that you're ready for the next day. But a lot of things in the back end are all provided by the head office, which is phenomenal. That way, we don't have to think about a lot of the technology side of things. But in our case, we also work with our own orthotic lab. So we make a lot of the orthotics that we do. We create them in house. We use 3-dimensional printers to be able to produce these products for clients, which is an additional workload in our case. But that's not necessarily something that people will have to do because if they plug into the head office lab, they can use that instead. But for us, that kind of sometimes passes the time as well, but also adds additional workloads throughout the day when you have a lot of customers. You have to catch up after work to get that done. But in general, obviously the main thing is really us serving clients is about sitting down with them for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to figure out what their needs are. And then from there decide, okay, how can we best help you with that? And then, making sure that they're satisfied. Follow-up phone calls would be one. We like to do weekly staff meetings as well, just to kind of make sure that, the team members are satisfied, that we're putting new processes in place that make life easier for everybody. And, I feel that allows us to, usually we do that an hour before work on Saturdays, because that way we can get there at 10. It doesn't really increase the workload that much, but it allows us to really kind of go over some of that feedback or potentially catch up on some workloads that we weren't able to get done during the week. But overall, it's a fairly relaxed week. I mean, if you like working with people, it's a great business to own.
There's a lot less complexity than a lot of other businesses. So that's for somebody who's looking for that level of structure with the flexibility, that sounds pretty cool. Okay, Adam, tell us a little bit about the staffing model. Like typical franchisee will have X number of staff. What's that? What should people be thinking about if they're thinking about you?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, one of the strong points of our model. You look at, say, QSR or QCR, right? You're looking at some pretty hefty staffing needs, and some of these really hot concepts these days. Like cookies are a big thing. I feel like I hear about cookie franchises nonstop these days. You look at some of the staffing requirements for some of those operations. It's like 20 people, right? We're 2 to 4, by and large. Now, these are general statements. Christian. The reason I wanted Christian to answer first is you hit the nail on the head, Gary. Our model has some flexibility, right? If you want to work 6 days, you can work 6 days. You want to work 5 days, you can work 5 days. And, of course, we're paying attention to sales and performance. And look, Christian's at a point in his business where he can work on the business, not simply in the business. And for those first few years, it's going to be in the business. But we can operate our stores in a very, very efficient square footage. I know this wasn't part of the question, but it speaks to staffing. Anything from 1,300 to 1,500 square feet, you can make one of our centers, our stores, hum along. Some are bigger, some are smaller. And it really depends on the franchisee's goals, right? If they want to build a really, really big operation, multiple clinicians, huge selection of footwear and other complementary products, like I already highlighted, the orthopedic bracing or sports medicine bracing, then yeah, your staff needs might be higher than that 2 to 4, but you don't need to do that. And so we can operate very lean. And to Christian's point and your point, Gary, managing 20 people or 10 people is a lot different than managing 2 to 4, right? It becomes more of a family than an extended family that, they're all somewhat dysfunctional, let's be honest, right? Whereas a smaller group of people, your headaches tend to be smaller. And that's not me saying anything negative about staff. It's just people management can be tough at times. It really can be. And so we keep that footprint small, we keep those staffing needs small. And the other thing I want to highlight as well is, the notion of absentee or semi-absentee ownership is obviously a very popular element to franchising nowadays. And I'm not going to sit here and say you can run a Foot Solutions absentee from day one. I would not advise that. Is it possible with a really, really solid team? Sure, it's possible. But at the end of the day, what we provide is service. And the only way to know that your store, your clinic is providing the highest level of service possible is to spend some time there, to watch and see, monitor, and be a part of it, and to really understand what it is that your clients and customers need. Now, that said, I've been in this realm, this foot care realm, for, like I said, just shy of 20 years. And I have seen many, many, many people, you know, grow within a business, grow within an operation, and get to the point where they will reduce their days, their clinical days. So they're, let's call them on floor days, actually interacting with customers or clients, to 2 or 3. And then the rest is spent on the business, not in the business. So that trajectory is 100% available to a person, just a matter of timeline and their individual goals. Some people just live and breathe and love working with people day in and day out. And at the end of the day, we are in a service business, really getting involved with people's lives. This is not just like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, here's your coffee for the day. That's great. Like, let's be honest here. We're talking about touching people's feet. That's a part of what we do. And so you have an intimate relationship with these customers and clients. And as I already said, and Christian's already said, we're changing their lives in many ways. They're going from not being able to do the things they want to do to then being able to do it. And if you look at, the Google reviews for Christian's store, I get access to those. I get automatically notified. I can't remember what the number is, Christian. Maybe you do off the top of your head, but they're all 5-star. And everybody's just over the moon. And it's one after another of either this is the best service I've ever received, or I'm back to living the life I've wanted to live from whatever the, ache, pain, or ailment was. So, I know I'm going off on a little bit of a rant here about our model, but it comes back to the people and the staff and the footprint, pun intended, of our stores and what we do for people, and, the kind of staff that you're looking for that take that level of service very seriously.
That's probably a good segue to one of the areas I always like to explore is when you think about traits and characteristics, what do you look for in an optimum franchisee?
It's that willingness, interest, and ideally outright passion for service and helping people. The rest we can train, we can coach, we can teach. But if you have a passion for helping people, you have a passion for getting involved in your community, like Christian obviously does, you're going to be successful. It's just that simple. The financial side of it, we can support you there. The digital marketing and the overall marketing side, we can support you there. The how to even assess for and design orthotics or select knee braces or footwear, your opening inventory, that's all teachable. But there are certain characteristics in a person where, are you really excited to go and help people day in and day out, or at minimum, build a team that is passionate about that? That's number one by far.
There's an old saying, you can train on skills, but you have to recruit awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Christian, back to you. You've been a franchisee now for some time. A lot of our listeners are thinking about going into franchising. What questions, what advice would you give people to ask of their franchisors before they buy?
Well, I'm not sure if it's so much a question that you should be asking. It's, whether or not you like the culture of the franchise. model that you're trying to buy into, right? Because I mean, the thing is that if you're going to go into a retail business, especially, you know, like Adam already said, we're very much hands-on, right? And a lot of owner operators, I mean, maybe they're not working 5 days or 6 days a week in the business. You know, I mean, I definitely don't. I am maybe 3 days a week in the store, but you know, at the same time, as Adam said, I'm focusing on working on the business as well to establish, you know, a slightly bigger team so that I don't have to be physically in there all the time. Not that I don't like working with people, I love it, but at the same time, you know, you want to make sure that there's a good cultural fit. So I would interview probably a number of different franchisees that are successful in the industry. You know, don't pick the worst performers because, you know, they're going to tell you everything that's wrong with the franchise, right? But you want to pick the ones that are excited about it. And because, you know, Foot Solutions is currently on the growth path, you know, talk to even some of the newer franchisees and ask them, you know, why did you choose to participate in this business as opposed to another business? Because there's lots of franchises out there. And obviously, before we started, you know, working with Foot Solutions, we also looked at other franchise models out there. But what we did appreciate about this model is that it is a model about helping people, right? It's about assisting them in achieving their goals and their dreams, as opposed to us, you know, just being there and you know, selling a product, you know, that may not even necessarily be good for you, as you know, select food franchises that are out there, which you know, obviously don't necessarily fit my personal identity. So yeah, you want your identity to match the identity of that franchise business that you're participating in, because of the fact that yes, you can create your own culture within your own franchise business, but at the same time, you just don't have the ability to necessarily, you know, completely change that culture based on the overlaying culture that's already there, right? So it's not like you're starting from scratch. No, you're participating in somebody else's business, and that business already has a culture. And if that culture is not a good fit, you know, you're not going to enjoy working with that franchise.
Yeah, I believe there's three levels of culture, and I think it's under examined when people are exploring franchises. There's the obvious one, which is the culture between the franchisor and the franchisee. And that's what you're referring to. What is that? What is that relationship like? The other obvious one is you, as the franchisee, are creating a culture with your customers, right? And that's going to be unique to each franchisee a little bit. You're very serious, you're very service oriented. The third culture, which we touched on earlier, but I think is the most important culture because it's the cornerstone of long-term knowledge and awareness, is the culture of franchisee to franchisee. Is it an open sharing culture? Do they bubble up best practices? Do they, hey, this didn't work, avoid this, or let's tweak it on an ongoing basis? That's the way franchise systems evolve well. So I'm really glad that you touched on culture. For the listeners out there, the Canadian Franchise Association has a list of questions for franchisors and franchisees that's on their website, that I wrote with another one of Canada's top franchise lawyers, so we know that that's a resource for you. And then the last area I'd like to explore, and this touches for both of you, from your perspective, Christian, how did you do your research before buying? Like, what's the message you'd like to give prospective franchisees guidance around doing effective research?
To be honest, I mean, we did some research, but obviously being new immigrants to the country, it's not like we were, you know, very aware of, you know, the surroundings back, you know, if you think about 24 years ago, we didn't have Google, right? So we didn't, so when we did research, it was going to the library and, you know, getting out some reporting that, you know, was done maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or, you know, if you're lucky, it was like last year that you were able to get some numbers on, you know, what the economy looks like. So, you know, research is very different today than it was back then. And nowadays you can, you know, kind of get all kinds of numbers from all kinds of different associations that will talk about different things, you know, that are important, obviously, to you as a business owner. Whether or not you make decisions on that, you know, that's up to you. But at the same time, you know, I think if you don't believe in yourself as a franchise or a business owner, you're not going to succeed in business, right? You have to have some kind of a drive to want to you know, serve other people and become, you know, a better version of yourself. And you're gonna have to be willing to grow, right? So in order for you to be willing to grow means you have to be able to understand somebody else's point of view so that you can potentially change it if you see that that's valuable to you, right? But I think, in the end, if you're looking to get into franchising, you have to be willing to learn, and you also want to be, open to suggestions from other people, but also be a team player, right? You have to be a team player. And having been obviously on the franchise council and a bunch of other things, it's not necessarily all about what you want. It's what can help the franchise system as a whole. That is very, very important. And I think if you're a team player and you're willing to learn, you're willing to grow, and you really like the culture of the franchise, franchisor, then you're going to be in good hands.
There's a few things I hear in there. When I talk about being willing to grow, when somebody buys a franchise, they go from what they were doing before that they were probably pretty good at, to being completely new and having to learn to be good at something. So that growth and that sacrifice curve that they have to go through. But that's where that alignment comes with the values and are they the team player, all those different things that you're talking about. When I want, let me rephrase this. When I am guiding clients on finding the right business, understanding what the possibilities are within a certain brand, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how much money can I make? And I think it's absolutely the wrong question. It's important. Money is a very important part of the decision. But for the listeners out there, when you're trying to understand what the possibilities are within any brand, what is the goals that you want to achieve? Let's say your goal is to earn $100,000. It's not how many franchisees are earning that. It's the fact that some are means it can be done. What you want to understand is, what is the work it takes to achieve at your goal level? What is the work it takes to achieve at your lifestyle level, whatever lifestyle you want to achieve in that work-life balance, work-life integration? So really make a note of that, is the questions you ask existing franchisees. What does it take to perform at that level? As we wind down, coming back to you, Adam, how do you measure the success of your franchisees?
Yeah, it's a great question, Gary. I mean, there's the obvious ones, right? Again, nobody goes into a business with the plan to fail, right? And a given, or at a certain level, we of course have to be paying attention to sales, profitability, the conventional business metrics. But impact within a community, engagement within a community, those will absolutely positively impact those more objective, hardcore business numbers every day, every week, every month, every year. And so looking at that willingness to get involved in the community, coaching them on willingness to be involved in the community if necessary, that will never go away in our business. And so success is, of course, a function of the conventional business metrics, but I think we can get caught up in that sometimes. They're obviously necessary, but we have to understand that there are more subjective elements to getting there. It's not just how can I squeeze every penny out of my margin. It's not just what's the best, let's talk footwear for a minute. Is this footwear the cheapest at wholesale that I can make a good margin on? That might be something worth considering. But if it doesn't fit into your store and meet the requirements of what we commit to, which is a high level of service, a high quality of product mix, and really delivering solutions that last for people, then it's not a fit. It's not just about the numbers. The numbers will come if a person is willing to be engaged and really take service seriously with a true passion, and understand that we are making a difference in people's lives. We're helping them live better lives. And it is a willingness to really embrace that matters in many ways more than those hardcore numbers.
Okay, thank you. For each of you, Adam, you're talking, so we'll let you go first. What have I not asked you that you would ask you as it relates to what you wanted to communicate today?
Well, that's a good question. I think I'd come back to your question about research. And I would put this more generally for anybody considering, a franchise. There's a lot of ways to gather information nowadays more than ever before. And I've probably overemphasized the people aspect to what we do, and engaging with the community, engaging with people, a passion for working with people. But the what I would say for people considering a franchise model is talk to as many people as possible, not just franchisees. Take the preliminary call if it's offered by the franchisor, like get to know them, really get to know them, and really understand, to Christian's point, the culture. You have enough phone calls or enough Zoom calls like we're doing today, you're gonna have a pretty good grasp of what that operation is all about, what these people are really all about. Specific to us, a very common question, or maybe not a common question, but a question that should be considered in our space is, what's the difference, right? What's the difference between Foot Solutions and another competitor, or somebody else that's making orthotics or offering a similar model to what we do? That's a really, really important question, because there are a lot of ways you can get involved in our space, our sector. And technology is sometimes overemphasized. And yes, Christian mentioned, we focus on 3D printing, the latest technology available within our space when it comes to the custom orthotic realm. But there is no replacement for the people that you're going to go and see when you go into a store or a clinic, their knowledge, their expertise, their understanding of what it is that is really right for that person. So, maybe it's an obvious question to say, what's the difference, or what are the differentiators? But that's, to me, one of the most important questions you can ask, because if the person answering, that is, leans toward softer elements, people, service, the things that are easy to say but really hard to execute, versus the somewhat maybe more complicated answers like, well, we've got the latest and greatest, artificial intelligence generated way of making X. Sure, that can be great. But in the healthcare sector in particular, at the end of the day, it's people. And that's the most important part.
And as I listen to you explain that, I want our listeners to be asking themselves, do I have the ability to create this level of a service environment and this culture of service? Christian, over to you. What have I not asked you that you would ask you?
What have you not asked me, Gary? Well, you haven't asked me if I'm excited. You know, still being in the franchise after 24 years, right? I mean, obviously, we've been around for a long time, but I have to say, it's been definitely a whirlwind of a ride, considering that we've gone through the 2008 recession. We had the pandemic just recently that we had to move through, right? I mean, and pivot and all these different things. But I mean, that makes it, I guess, a seasoned entrepreneur. But I have to say that, especially now that we've had to change, after Ray's passing, unfortunately, in obviously the franchise kind of structure, not necessarily the structure, but in terms of the franchise ownership, I find that the new ownership, has definitely been willing to really listen to franchisees and use our expertise and our advice to make it better. And I really appreciate that this growth mindset that I was talking about earlier is alive and well within the franchise leadership. And I think thank you to Adam and everybody else that's behind the scenes, obviously, to making it happen. That's, I think, it's a very important part, that a franchisee that's been around for a long time has the ability to still be excited after 24 years to be partnering with this franchise group. I think that's a very important aspect.
And I thought I was long in the tooth at 22 years. So it's like, I know what it means to be excited. Like, I think I've got one of the best businesses on the planet. I get to help people change their lives, helping them find franchise. You get to help them change their lives in terms of the getting back to the things they like to do around mobility and other elements. So, okay, Adam, if people are interested in the Foot Solutions franchise, where do they go to?
footsolutions.com or footsolutions.ca. It's going to get you all the information you need. You'll find a franchising tab there on the website, and there's a form that they can fill out to reach out. I'll share my personal email directly as well. It's adam.janke, that's JAN as in November KE, at footsolutions.com. I'm always willing to have a conversation with somebody, be that on Zoom or a phone call. I don't consider any outreach useless outreach. I love talking to people. I love telling people about the opportunity within Foot Solutions. I love telling people about this this whole sector in general. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I'm willing to help anyone in any way that I can. And I'll share a quick, not even a story, Gary, but I've had multiple leads reach out who decided to go their own way and start something on the truly independent. And I followed up with them and said, if I can ever help you, just let me know. I'm not afraid to do so. I am truly passionate about seeing people realize their dreams, and it's a big reason why I got into the franchising side of the business realm.
We share that similar passion, so that's great. And on the website, it's got all the store locations. So if somebody wants to go to Christian store or any other near them, they would be able to find that.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been very enlightening. I do appreciate the insight. That's a wrap for this episode of Franchise Canada Chats. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.